Okay, so I'm going to speak specifically about, as Jen was saying, some of the more contentious images, because one of the questions, Jen and I, we make this argument a lot, social media is important, selfies are okay because people are interacting with the space in their own way, and that is fine, but people are still, they come back at us with these questions like, yes, but what about the people that are being disrespectful? Or what about the people making jokes about the Holocaust Memorial, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm gonna focus primarily on, I think, there are a few projects, one primarily, which you might all already know about, that sort of serves as the perfect intersection of all of the questions Jen and I have about difficult images, public perceptions of the history of the Holocaust, public perceptions of appropriate behavior, and something that I've begun to think about, especially in relation to the book project, is the culture of online shaming that tends to accompany how people engage with the Holocaust, especially on social media. So I'm going to talk specifically about the Holocaust project. Has everyone, have people seen this? Okay, I'll explain that a little bit more. I'm going to talk about the Breanna Mitchell Auschwitz selfie as well, and then I'm also going to talk about the differences we see when it comes to mostly gendered images of self-photography as versus, say, the rise of the alt-right on YouTube reappropriating Holocaust imagery via new wave retro techno music. You don't really see as much about that in the news as you do Breanna Mitchell's selfie, for example. I'm also going to talk a little bit about the differences that come with taking photos in different places. Jen had mentioned there's a spatial dimension to the digital social media aspect of Holocaust memory, and this is very true. It's very tied to place as well. I've been looking a lot at trying to consider the ways in which social media is very much tied to the physical geography of Holocaust memory. There is a Holocaust site hierarchy, unfortunately. Some images in some places hold more weight and meaning than others. Okay. So, as Jen said, our archive is an archive that's constantly in flux, it's living, it's morphing, widely accessible, and this public perception of Holocaust memory on social media must therefore be taken into account. I don't think this is very different, personally, from a lot of the archival work that we all do. We all know that our archives have a life and a story, even if we're dealing with letters or physical images or government documents. All of these things have a life for sure. But what I've become interested in is the ways in which Holocaust memory on social media comes with an element of public shaming. There is a right way to remember the Holocaust on social media. If you go and you look at the Auschwitz Memorial Museum Instagram account, there are very particular types of images that they regram and they reshare. You don't see the Auschwitz account kind of regramming a lot of selfies that people take at Auschwitz. It's mostly very stylized, artistic, solemn photos of the camp, some of which, depending on what time of year it is, can be quite beautiful. I've found it's very interesting. So maybe this is one of the books that I've been reading recently on the subject of public shaming. It's called So You've Been Publicly Shamed. It's by John Ronson, who's a British journalist, and he's focusing specifically on the reemergence and the resurgence of public shaming as an internet phenomenon solely, mostly on Twitter. And when I start talking about Breanna Mitchell, I'll explain how public shaming kind of takes on a life of its own and moves throughout these mediums, even if an image pops up on Instagram. Usually the fallout will happen on Twitter. So, and living in the age of Trump's America, I'm sure we all are aware of the internet shaming that happens on Twitter now. So, I'm going to talk about the Holocaust project. Show of hands if you've seen it. Brilliant. Okay, so I was sent this website, I think I counted 20 times, like in the first 2 days that it came out. A lot of people being like, hey, have you seen this? So, this is a project, it's a photography project by Berlin-based Shahat Shapira. He's an Israeli satirist. So his project consisted of gathering groups of selfies, I think there were 12 in total, that were taken at the Holocaust Memorial in Berlin. And if anybody's seen the Holocaust Memorial in Berlin, it's very postmodern. It's composed of about 1,200 stele, or blocks of varying heights, and the ground dips depending on where you are in the memorial, and it's disorienting. It's also meant to be an urban space, a changing space, a living space. The architect famously, he commented that he thinks people should be able to have picnics on the stele. That's part of having an ongoing memory culture that learns and heals. I don't think Shapiro really agrees with any of that. So he took these images, some are selfies, some are people doing yoga. There's one really kind of personally awful photo of a group of young 20-something guys jumping from block to block, and the caption says, "Jumping on dead Jews at the Holocaust Memorial." So that is, of course, extremely problematic for reasons beyond the photo itself. And what he did is he spliced these photographs with archival photography from concentration camps. Lots of graphic imagery, and there will be some warning, some graphic imagery here. So they're spliced together, and all of a sudden the images change. Someone is taking a selfie in front of a barracks full of Holocaust victims, or somebody is juggling amidst a pit of emaciated corpses. So they go from this, I apologize if you can't really see, so there's selfies, someone lying on top of one of the stela, the juggling guy, to this, which, I mean, packs a particular punch visually for many reasons. And this, if you can't see, I'll see if I can zoom in a little bit. All of the photos are taken down from the website now. This was a kind of short-lived, like a public shaming project. He said, Shapiro famously, he said that, like, if you want your photo taken down, email me and I will take it down. But I think the subject of the email was supposed to be "undouche me." I was like, okay, this is obviously very interesting.
Can you make I can't see any of those.
Yeah, I could try and make them bigger.
Let me see them.
Dun, dun. I might have to go into...
If you can, it's fine.
Oh yeah, it's no problem. Editing mode. There were 12, they're all taken down now. So if you go to the website here, there's a long essay about how the project went. He took it down. He has a lot of reviews written by people on the internet, a lot of reactions to the project. Most of them are positive, not all of them are. Okay, so for example, there's this one. This one in particular, I always get some. This one. So he spliced the photos together and edited them so that they look like archival images. And it's supposed to try and remind people that there is a particular way to behave in these spaces, and there is a very specific way that he wishes that they would behave. So these are a few of the images here. Holocaust, of course, is the combination of the millennial slang term acronym YOLO, which stands for "You Only Live Once," smashed up with Holocaust. And it was interesting when I saw this project kind of unfolding. I remember ages ago when I was scrolling through Instagram, some people, some unfortunate individuals, use that hashtag on their school trips to Berlin. They'll take a photo by the Holocaust Memorial, hashtag Holocaust, hashtag fun with friends. And that's a whole other conversation you can get into about the language that people use in hashtags and what that means. So when he selected Holocaust as his title, I thought that was pretty interesting. So when I first saw this, of course, it's being celebrated famously by a lot of people. People are very happy because they think that this type of image is very important, and it makes people think about the ways in which they should be behaving in these memorial spaces. And I prefer to think of the ethics of this. So as we were talking about, Jen was saying images have a life cycle. They come from places. When you create a new image, it is interpreted and it takes on kind of new events within that life cycle. And I wonder, though these images that these individuals took are publicly accessible, what are the ethics, not even just of taking someone's photo from Instagram, but also using the archival imagery? These are images of victims. They came from somewhere. And he's kind of manipulating that imagery to I think, shame somebody in a public forum who's chosen not to experience that space in the way that he would. So while this is a very kind of interesting message about how people should be behaving at even just the Holocaust Memorial, it also kind of raises these tricky questions about how photos circulate and the meanings that they take on, and whether or not this is actually an acceptable way to teach somebody about Holocaust history and Holocaust memory, for example. Obviously, I don't necessarily agree that you should jump all over the Holocaust Memorial and use a caption like "jumping on dead Jews" at the Holocaust Memorial. I wouldn't do that. I don't think many people would do that. But I think that responses to that behavior are important to include in this contemporary conversation about the politics of Holocaust memory. The argument that Shapira is trying to make as well is a deeply geographical and spatial one. It's tied to a deep understanding of geographies of the Holocaust, where sites of the Holocaust lie, how we are meant to engage with them. The memorial's architect, Peter Eisman, said in response to Shapira's project, "There are no bodies at my memorial." So you can see that Shapira is invoking a very particular visuality of the Holocaust in a space that doesn't quite match up, in an effort to make people feel guilty about the ways in which they should remember. So that the concentration camp imagery is not present at the Berlin Memorial, but he wants people to think about piles of bodies when they're walking through this memorial specifically. And therefore, his perception of Holocaust memory and memorialization is deeply personal to him, and it's tied to this visceral reaction that one is expected to have while they're remembering the true imagery of the Holocaust, even though this particular memorial was designed to be postmodern, to be highly interpretive, to be highly engaging, and to kind of grow with the community of Berlin after its inception. So I think what this signals, largely beyond the ethical problems of this project and the ethical considerations that we have to think about when looking at things like Instagram photography, Flickr photography, Tumblr posts, YouTube, as well as the remediated archival imagery from the Holocaust. We have to also think about how the landscape of the Holocaust memory extends into the digital sphere. This isn't just an ephemeral, pixelated, sort of, cloudy thing that just disappears once we exit out of our browser. It's tied to physical and spatial understandings of where the genocide was committed, and also how and where we are meant to remember it today. And this is especially important when the public's perception of the Holocaust and its history kind of comes to the forefront on social media. So a photograph at the Berlin Memorial is different than one taken at USHMM, which is different still than one taken at Yad Vashem, and definitely different from one taken at Auschwitz or Dachau, Neuengamme, for example. Some argue, I believe that Shapira would argue actually, that this behavior, the place in which they take the photograph, should be blanketed as being the same type of behavior regardless of the space in which it occurs. So, I'll talk for a minute then. Oh, we're back at the beginning. I'll talk for a minute about Breanna Mitchell. Does anybody remember Breanna Mitchell? So Breanna Mitchell is a 17-year-old girl who was interested in history, studied history with her father, was interested in the history of the Holocaust. And her father had told her that, we'll go to Europe, we'll visit these places together, and her father passed away. So Breanna Mitchell went to Europe with her mother and I believe her grandmother, and went on this trip without her father, but also for in memory of her father. She famously took this selfie at Auschwitz, which caused quite a big stir on the internet. So selfie in the Auschwitz concentration camp, she's got a smile. It's very off-putting because these two images, the image of a smiling teenage girl in a pink hoodie, don't match up with our image of what Auschwitz should look like, whether or not from a touristic point of view or an archival or historical point of view. And the internet went wild. The shaming of Breanna Mitchell was quite widespread. She eventually took the selfie down, and she later wrote to Huffington Post explaining her reasoning behind taking the photo, that it was to celebrate something that happened in her life, to remember her father, because they had quite a deep connection, and they both loved history. The internet didn't really seem to buy that. They felt that the greater kind of umbrella of Holocaust memory should overshadow Breanna's personal reasons for having taken the photo. So this is another example of a difficult photo which highlights that tension between the personal and the public, and the spaces in which that battle kind of plays itself out. I think what I will end off with, because I've been throwing a lot of examples at you, it is interesting to me that the public shaming of Breanna Mitchell, a young girl who took a coded as inappropriate selfie at Auschwitz in memory of her father, is possibly more virulent than anything I've seen on Holocaust deniers on YouTube, or the rise of the alt-right through the use of new wave retro music. So I'll give you a screen cap, so I don't want to pull it up on YouTube necessarily. So if you search for Fash Wave on YouTube, you'll get a whole bunch of stuff. One of which is this playlist called the Cyber Nazi Summer Camps. And what it is obviously you can see from the imagery, it's kind of appropriated the image of Auschwitz in a very pixelated, kind of Minecraft-esque form, but Fash Wave it's short for fascism wave, and it borrows trends in new wave retro music to kind of code and strengthen the position of the alt-right, especially on YouTube. This has grown immensely, just even in the last year. A lot of people have also attributed to the rise of Trump and the rise of the alt-right in America and in Germany as well. And this is something you guys can peruse on your own time. I would suggest going into incognito mode, so that maybe then YouTube doesn't do to you what it does to me, which is suggest playlists full of Fash Wave music. So it is very interesting when we consider how the past and the history of the Holocaust can collide with the present, and the ways in which we, and a lot of the public, neglect a lot of the very present threats. So we think about how people are getting angry that people are taking selfies at the Berlin Monument, or that they're taking selfies at Auschwitz. Yet we have a whole movement of pretty trendy new wave retro music flourishing on YouTube, one of the most popular social media sites. And it's not very publicized, it's very low key. And one of the things that I'm looking forward to kind of exploring more in this book are the politics of this public shaming, the right way to remember the Holocaust, and perhaps kind of avoiding looking at the way in which very present dangers are kind of flourishing underneath everybody's noses, perhaps. So I'll end it there if anybody has any questions for Jen or I.
Great, thank you.
I'm just going to go back to Breanna Mitchell's selfie because it's nice to look at.